Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Keeping Up with KP. Let's try that again. Welcome back to Keeping Up with KP. Why do I say it like that? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Keeping Up with KP. I hate how I'm saying this, so we're just gonna start here. You guys, sometimes it's just like this, okay? Can't even say my own name. What's happening? All right. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Keeping Up with KP. We are in week 2 of prep. Halfway into week 2 of prep. So the situation is I do not have somebody following me around with a camera. I wish I did. It would be a lot less work for me. I do these YouTubes entirely by myself, so this episode is gonna be a lot of B-roll. This process is and is not exciting, okay? We love following along with the journey because we love seeing how the body changes, right? We love seeing people get so lean. We love seeing people on stage. We love the final result. We love following along with the outcome, but the process itself isn't that exciting. It's repetitive. It's doing the same things over and over and over and over and over again. And I think there's value in seeing that. I think there's value in me showing you myself mastering the mundane. I think that's the best way to say it because that's the reality. Week 2 has been really about settling in mentally. Because my last episode, I was riding a high. I was feeling really good and grateful and happy because at the beginning of prep, it's new, it's exciting, and there's an added layer this year, and I'm sure you guys feel it too. I know I'm not the only one because I can't open my Instagram without seeing stuff about the freaking fire horse and the wood snake. Here's the deal, you guys. I am not super into astrology. The only signs I really know anything about are my own, obviously. I'm an Aries, April 6th, okay? And Scorpios, because my sister's a Scorpio and my husband's a Scorpio. And Scorpios are nutty. They're fucking nuts. And I think that's why Ryan and I work, is because I've lived my entire life with my sister. I've learned how to deal with that kind of person. I've learned to love that kind of person. So anyways, astrology is interesting, but the thing with astrology or faith or anything, I'm never going to get religious on here by any means. But for me and like my beliefs, I don't think seeing is always believing. For me, feeling is believing. And there's bits and pieces of this whole fire horse situation that is like really resonating with me this year because there has certainly been a shift and there is certainly a phase of my life that I'm going through right now that is shedding. And while shedding in itself, I just went through this with our move, is like a huge weight is lifted off your shoulders and it's like freeing and you have like a high after that weight is removed. However, the shedding of itself, the people, the places, the things that you just like let yourself let go of, it's uncomfortable. And in this season specifically, if I understand it correctly, it's like the people, places, and things that you are shedding, but also like the versions of yourself. And so for me, where I'm at in prep, last week I was like riding this high, right? And this week already, I'm kind of having some like self-doubt creep in. And it's part of it. It's always gonna be part of it. It's always gonna be part of life, no matter what. I feel like the whole shedding has been a process. And certainly since January 1, but I think before that, there was a lot of buildup. So a lot of unsettledness. And I saw something this morning that said on February 17th is when the shedding is no more. And we're all gonna be super uncomfortable until then because I think the last thing we shed is ourselves. And I am feeling that. I am feeling every ounce of that. I think this part of the shedding is going to determine which old parts of ourselves are coming with us. So if you hear me and you're with me on this, I think we're gonna feel a little unsettled for a hot minute because it's February 5th. So knowing this and understanding this is oddly comforting to me as I move through this part of prep, as I move through this part of my life. So back to how I'm navigating this week, because beginning of prep is new, shiny, exciting, and that whole new and shiny piece is really resonating with me on a lot of different levels. It's resonating with me in prep, it's resonating with me in business, in the sport, all of the bikini pros switching over to the fit model division. And so that's been a big topic of conversation between other competitors and myself, kind of at the level that we're at as being aspiring professionals. And I think it's causing like a lot of confusion. But what I have learned firsthand from the whole new and shiny concept, because from a business standpoint, 2 years ago, our business was new and shiny. And reflecting on the people, places, and things that we attracted from being new and shiny, it's very interesting because the quality of people, places, and things that are attracted to new and shiny things, they have a shelf life. I think that shelf life is as long as it remains new and shiny and exciting. Because when you are no longer new, shiny, and exciting, they are going to jump to the next new, shiny, and exciting thing. That is not all people, places, and things. That is just a general observation that I have come to find, because what we are attracting now, 2 years in, are people that don't care about it being new and shiny. They've already had the experience of being a part of something new and shiny. And so having this experience personally, new and shiny things are less attractive to me. So take that how you want and apply it to where you want, but that is how I'm feeling. So with this new and shiny phase of prep, I'm leaning into letting it be less exciting. I know that the less exciting bits and pieces of the journey are the most important. But I also think it's like natural and just human instinct to be attracted or to be a little bit curious about what's new and shiny, right? But I'm just kind of recognizing this lesson and letting it like expand over to every area of my life, including this prep. And I'm also recognizing this as a coach, because I just ran a 6-week challenge, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. People are all in, they are all committed when it's new and shiny and exciting. Same with our New Year's resolutions, right? That's why people fall off after the first 2 weeks, because it's less exciting. So the new and shiny of prep is wearing off. And this week is where I started to feel like that self-doubt start creeping in. And so what I'm trying to do differently this season is just really set myself up in all of the areas that I can. So a few things I'm like really leaning into doing earlier this time, and I've already talked about this, is my posing. So I have decided to hire a posing coach and work with her the entirety of this prep rather than just like the last 4 to 8 weeks, because that's an area I really need to focus on. I need a lot of work there. So this week I did do my first posing session, which I'm super excited about. My coach recommended Ariana Brothers. I have worked with a few posing coaches, and I just want to say like her attention to detail is really awesome. I think for me, when it comes to posing, because I have been practicing pretty diligently, it's just kind of that confirmation that what I'm practicing is right, and just like those teeny tiny tweaks that make all the difference. So I feel as if having a posing coach to work with for the entirety of this prep is really going to help me build my confidence. It's really going to help me with that accountability piece of like continuing to practice and prioritize, because the thing is, you guys, you could have the best physique in the world, but if you can't present it well, it doesn't matter, because it all comes down to how you can present yourself. And I don't want to say it doesn't matter, because it definitely does matter. You definitely need to bring the physique. You really need both. And I feel like if you work so long and hard to achieve that physique, then it's so silly not to prioritize practicing how to present it. So again, that is one way that I'm really trying to set myself up this season, and I've already started that, as well as just like my self-care regimen. I'm always kind of on a rotation with like my hydrofacials and my laser hair removal, but I've been like really super lax because my life has been so busy. So I'm really focusing on getting on a good regimen and routine, so I'm not scrambling to do all of the self-care right at the end. This way I don't have to worry about, shaving and just like all those little added stressors at the end that add up quite a bit financially too. I'm fortunate to have access to these things at a lower cost. So, there's give and take for everyone and whatever your situation and circumstances are. But for me, definitely this helps because how your tan goes on, how your makeup goes on, it matters too, as well as my hair. And we will get to that in another episode. The other things I'm really starting to like zoom in on this week are my recovery routines, specifically my evening routine, but also mobility. So my mobility for posing, I'm gonna be spending more time on my posing. I'm gonna be spending more time on my mobility so I can pose better, as well as my evening routine. And this is kind of a loaded subject for me because, as I mentioned with this YouTube, I do not have somebody following me around with a camera, right? Like I do all of this myself, not just for myself, but also for our businesses. Because at this day and age, if you don't know it already, social media is everything. I think there's so much to learn. I'm constantly learning, but in business and also specifically in this sport, you need to have a social media presence because you need to be a good ambassador for the sport. And so that's something I'm really trying to focus on, and navigating that isn't the easiest. But I will say it is part of it. I was listening to Kim Kardashian the other day because I will give it to the Kardashians, like they have built a fantastic brand, right? And the thing that Kim said that really stuck out was like, if you don't have time for social media, then you have no business building a brand. And it's the truth. Again, I'm constantly learning with the business, with myself, and it goes back to mastering the mundane and consistency and not letting that self-doubt creep in because it does. And so I feel like where I'm at specifically in the journey is I'm starting to feel a little bit of self-doubt as I am trying to build my brand and while I'm trying to go through this process. And I think the thing that doesn't help is allowing myself so much time to consume whatever else is out there, because then it just gives you room to overthink and compare almost. Like I try not to compare, but it's also just kind of like human nature, right? So that's something I'm navigating this week. And I think what I've learned in navigating that is there's times of the day for me that I'm super creative, and I have learned that is usually at night when nobody is bothering me. So what I end up doing is spending the last couple hours before bed creating content because I feel really creative. But I'm noticing it's getting less and less productive as I am starting to have this self-doubt because I'm staying up late at night, I'm editing this content. That's what I'm thinking about before I go to bed. That's the first thing I think about when I wake up in the morning. This week was not perfect, but I did start to make an effort to turn off later. I was watching Laura Leach Patos on here, and her rule is like 8 to 8, no phone. And so I tried that, and I took a night off my phone. I was present with my dogs, with my husband. I was trying to master the mundane, and I was crawling out of my skin because I was like, there is so much that I could be doing right now. I am feeling so creative. I have all of these ideas, but I'm really gonna try to like work and push through that and get myself on a really solid routine, because I think the reality is that is part of the mundane that I need to master the most, and it will help me find more productive pockets of my day to do that kind of work. So if you hear me and you're with me on like fighting the good fight with social media, I'm going through it too. And I'm really trying to support myself in that area by inviting a little bit of help in the areas that I can accept help. So like with our business, definitely, but also quality is really important. And I've been just doing the iPhone stuff for so long that I was able to connect with the people in our community, within the studio, photographer, to like capture bits and pieces of the journey more professionally, right? Because the professional content does pop, it is attractive to the eye, and it's important. I want that. I just don't have the money to spend on it. So I think that's the great part about networking, is finding people, places, and things that can add value to what you're building, and you can add value to their journey as well. And so that's really something I'm trying to do this season. And also, this is the first season I haven't hid in an oversized hoodie, sweatshirt for the entirety of my prep until like 8 weeks out, you know? And I wore a crop top my whole off season. This is the most confident I've ever felt in my mind and in my body. And so I think it's important that I document the journey, that I be proud of it. That to me is a way that I can be an ambassador to the sport, is by showing both, by showing the polished, high quality bits and pieces that, again, is attractive to the eye, but also showing the raw and real moments, like what I'm doing right now, or like my unaesthetic meals, because that is my reality most of the time. I think there's a fine line with it, and just finding where you walk that line and making it your own. The last thing I do want to touch on is, again, I told you I typically hide in oversized hoodies, whatever, but it's because I'm in the Midwest. I'm in the south suburbs of Chicago, and reflecting, every single prep I've ever done has started in the dead of winter. And so social media is good, great, and wonderful because you follow people, you know, in different climates, like going through the same thing. And like, I'm always like, oh, it would be so nice to like go through a prep in like Jamaica, obviously, or Florida. And again, this is the first year I haven't gone on a vacation in the last 8. So normally in January, I at least get away for like 7 to 10 days to get some sunshine. That didn't happen this year, but I didn't really need it to this year because I feel like I'm in a different place mentally. So Midwest, it's freezing, it's snowy, it's gray. Naturally, it's depressing. And I think I have gone through this cycle my entire life of pretty much like hibernating, almost an excuse to let yourself go. And for me this year, it's been a little different because I had a conversation with a one-on-one client who worked with me for about 7 months last year. We were wrapping up her program, and I asked her if she wanted to continue another 3 months. That was this fall. And she said exactly what I just said. Every winter, I kind of just hibernate, couch rot, and then I like come back in the spring. I said, okay, I understand that. I respect where you're at in the journey. I've been there personally, and I'll be here for you in the spring when you're ready. But I hope that next year at this time, we're having a different conversation, and that maybe you're in a place in your journey where you don't want to repeat the cycle. Because while the new and shiny things appear less attractive to me, what has started attracting me are imperfect conditions. It feels exciting for me to start something during imperfect conditions. So prep starting January 1 in the Midwest. I'm excited about this because I know everybody else is where I've been for many years of my life. And I share the journey because I want to pull people out of that. But I also recognize, just like the story I just told you, it's like people have to make that choice for themselves. They have to be ready. They have to want it. You cannot want it for them. So me, where I'm at, it is exciting for me to start prep during these imperfect circumstances and conditions because I have done it before. And in 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, when everybody else decides it's time to start over, I'm ahead of everyone because I've done the work. I've mastered the mundane. I have built systems and habits and routines during imperfect conditions, and it's just getting easier and easier for me. And so I've recognized that every year this is how it goes, and it gets less and less hard. And also for me, it's exciting because I see everybody else in prep all across the US and different countries and great climates, and here I am in the butt crack of America freezing my ass off. And in some way that's motivating for me. You know, it's not about who suffers the most, it's about who suffers the best. But I feel like I kind of need that, because no matter what, you're going to have resistance during this process. Whether it's sunny out, whether it's raining out, whether it's snowing out, you're going to feel that resistance. But during the most difficult time, because it takes time for you to like the way that you look. I don't love the way that I look right now. I'm literally putting self tanner on like 1 to 2 times a week. You know, I'm starting to see more lines, I'm starting to see more definition, and that's fun and that's exciting. But it's still a bit of a mental hurdle, a mind fuck, if you will. So I guess for me, going through this process, starting in the winter, and then it's like slowly starts to get nicer and nicer and nicer and nicer, it almost helps with the process, to be honest. Because as I start to get leaner and more fatigued and more like in the thick of it, that's when the weather is going to be nicer. That's when the sun's going to be out, and I can start going for walks outside and getting that vitamin D. It's just a process within the process. I don't hate where I live because of it. I also know life is long, and I think if and when I get to a point in the journey that I can prep in perfect conditions for the entire time, I will appreciate where I'm at right now even more, because that's the goal, right? Is to just have better and perfect conditions. And maybe this is just a way that I'm like owning where I'm at in the journey. So that's really where I'm at this week. But some things that I have to look forward to, because when you do master the mundane and you learn to execute during imperfect conditions and you really set yourself up, which I've done all of that, we're now able to incorporate different methodologies. So that's something that my coach mentioned during my last check-in, and I'm really excited to do that this time around. I feel like I've earned it and it's exciting. So all in all, this week, I feel like I've noticed a difference in my physique. I definitely feel like I'm getting leaner. I'm still weighing myself daily. The scale isn't like jumping downwards. My first week, I did have a bit of a drop, and so far this week, my weight's kind of like going like that. All within a pound, really. So it's kind of just holding steady, I would say, but like slightly trending down. I'm starting to feel a little bit more fatigue. My pumps are kind of hit or miss. I'm feeling a little bit more aches and pains. And then obviously the mental landscape that I already went over. But everything I said in week 1, I'm continuing to do with like prioritizing my digestion. I'm not messing with stevia. I have been so good and diligent with like the meal piece. And I actually was having a huge problem with protein powder, and I decided to give one more a try, and it's actually going so well for me, which is really exciting. It's nice having a protein powder in the mix, I'm not gonna lie. It just kind of breaks up eating chicken like 4 times a day. But at the cost of being bloated, it's not worth it. However, so far I have had great luck on this new protein powder that I've been trying. So for the time being, I'm gonna stick with it and see how it goes. The key piece, the key takeaway for this week is just mastering the mundane. And in mastering the mundane, it's learning to support yourself so that no matter what your circumstances are, you're still able to do that. So that's where we're at, halfway into week 2, just kind of riding all these waves and just owning every part of the journey. I'm looking forward to my check-in this weekend. I'm looking forward to continuing to get better every single day. I'm really leaning into gratitude this season. I'm feeling really grateful. I'm feeling really happy despite the self-doubt creeping in, but I'm just excited to see how good this season gets. So as always, I appreciate the support. I appreciate you tuning in and keeping up with me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, do all the things, press all the buttons. I do want to hear if anybody like resonates with this whole shift that we're going through, or really anything that I've said in here. Like, slide in my DMs on Instagram, comment below. I've been really active on TikTok. You should follow me on TikTok. Having lots of debates on like room temperature and cold bananas. So you should give me a follow on there as well. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next one.